All right, so we're doing a deep dive today into something incredible. I think
right.
It's the 57th hexagram of the I Ching.
Wow.
It's called the gentle.
Mm-hmm.
You brought us this fascinating topic, and I'm just struck by the imagery.
Oh, yeah.
Gentle winds, capsized boats,
Yeah.
decrees that reach people's hearts.
Interesting.
It sparks curiosity, doesn't it?
It really does.
Almost poetic.
It is, yeah. And you're right. It grabs your attention.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack some powerful symbolism.
Okay.
But this Hexagram Xun, it's not just some abstract philosophy. It touches on areas like love, health.
Oh, wow.
Even lost items.
Really?
And legal matters. Practical stuff.
I love that about the I Ching.
Yeah.
Ancient wisdom, but so relevant.
Yeah.
So let's start unpacking.
Okay.
What is the core essence of Xun, this gentleness?
At its heart,
Yeah.
Xun represents this idea of a gentle, yet pervasive influence, like wind. It can be a barely there breeze or a force that carves mountains over time. And that's the point.
Okay.
Persistent. It gets everywhere. It creates change gradually.
Yeah.
Not through brute force.
I'm already intrigued.
Okay.
So the source material also says Xun is made up of two wind trigrams.
Yes.
One on top of the other.
Right.
That feels significant. How does that visual connect to this idea of gentle influence?
That's a great observation.
Okay.
It's like the etching is saying gentleness isn't passive or weak.
Right.
It's about harnessing that persistent, subtle power, like the wind, and using it strategically.
So it's not about forcing our will on the world.
Right.
It's more like nudging things in the right direction.
Precisely. Over time, the text even compares the wind's influence to a decree reaching people's hearts.
Interesting.
Think about it.
Okay.
A decree isn't a shouting match.
Yeah.
It's an authoritative statement that inspires action. That's the kind of influence we're talking about.
Now I'm starting to see why you find this hexagram so fascinating.
Yeah.
But there's also this imagery of a boat leaving a sandbank and travelers returning home.
Right.
That feels different from a decree.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
That's where the idea of overcoming challenges comes in.
Okay.
Imagine a boat stuck on a sandbank, unable to move. It's a symbol of feeling stuck, facing obstacles.
Yeah.
But then the tide turns.
Okay.
The boat is freed, and it returns home.
Oh.
A sense of resolution.
Yeah.
Finding your way back to where you belong.
So it's suggesting that even when we feel stuck, like we're running aground, there's potential for change and a return to stability.
Absolutely.
That's pretty hopeful.
And the text reinforces that talk of disputes resolving, partnerships thriving, even illnesses being healed. There's a positive current running through this hexagram, despite the challenges it acknowledges.
But hold on. The source material also mentions fortune being unpredictable.
Right.
Full of twists and turns.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of at odds with this sense of optimism?
It's not a contradiction.
Okay.
It's a reality check. Xun isn't promising a problem-free life.
Right.
It's acknowledging that life throws curveballs.
Yeah.
And sometimes we capsize, metaphorically speaking.
So instead of pretending life is a smooth sail, Xun is saying, hey, be ready for the storms, but know that you can weather them.
Yes. The wisdom of Xun lies in how it prepares us to navigate those inevitable ups and downs.
Okay.
It emphasizes adaptability, remaining calm amidst the chaos, and choosing to persist in doing what's right, even when things get tough.
This is where I start to see how this ancient wisdom could be applied to our lives today.
Right.
But how do we actually translate these concepts into practical action?
Well, let's consider a common scenario.
Okay.
You're faced with a difficult situation, maybe a conflict at work, or a disagreement with a loved one. What's your first instinct?
Oh.
Do you react impulsively? Or do you take a breath, assess the situation, and respond in a measured way?
I'll admit my default is often to react first and think later.
Yeah.
But what you're suggesting is that Ux encourages a more thoughtful approach.
Yes.
Like the wind gradually influencing the landscape.
Exactly. It's about choosing gentle persistence over brute force, even when emotions run high.
Right.
And that brings us to some of the specific advice Us offers on different aspects of life.
Okay. This is where it gets really interesting for me.
Right.
Love, health, lost items, legal matters.
Yeah.
Those are things we all deal with.
Right.
What kind of guidance does this hexagram offer in those areas?
Let's start with love.
Okay.
Sun suggests there might be some rough waters in your romantic life.
Oh, no.
And it emphasizes sincerity over flattery.
So no more showering your partner with empty compliments.
Well, it's like saying build that connection on genuine communication.
Okay.
Not just superficial charm.
So how does gentle influence actually play out in a love relationship?
Right.
Because honestly, sometimes, well, honesty can be a bit harsh, right?
That's where the nuance comes in.
Okay.
It's not about being brutally honest,
right,
but rather being truthful in a way that's considerate and aimed at building understanding.
Okay.
Remember, Sun is all about subtle, persistent influence, not blunt force trauma.
Okay, I'm starting to see the difference.
Yeah.
Less, you never listen.
Yeah.
And more, hey, I feel like I'm not being heard sometimes. Can we talk about that?
Exactly. Yeah. It's about creating a space for open dialogue and using gentle persistence to nurture the relationship.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about health? What insights does Sun offer on that front?
The Sun warns against ignoring long-term illness and emphasizes the importance of adapting to changing conditions. It's like a reminder to be in tune with your body and make adjustments as needed.
It's interesting that it specifically mentions long-term illness.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's saying, don't just brush off those persistent symptoms.
Right.
Pay attention and address them before they become a bigger issue.
You got it.
Wow.
It's about being proactive and recognizing that our bodies are constantly changing.
Right.
And we need to adapt our lifestyles accordingly.
So a little bit of that gentle wind approach to our health as well.
Yes.
Consistent, adaptable, and in it for the long haul.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Small, consistent changes over time can have a profound impact on our well-being.
This is all making sense to me.
Good.
But what about lost items?
Okay.
What's the advice there? I feel like that's a bit more of a random topic.
Well, it might seem random.
Yeah.
But think about the feeling of losing something important. It can be disorienting, frustrating, and even a bit symbolic of other losses in life. And Sun's advice on this is surprisingly direct. It suggests that if you've lost something, it's probably gone for good.
Ouch. So no holding out hope for that lost phone to miraculously reappear.
Probably not.
Okay.
But maybe that's also part of Sun's wisdom, learning to accept loss and move on, rather than clinging to what's gone.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Sometimes letting go, even if it's difficult, can be a form of gentle strength.
Right.
What about legal matters? How does Sun guide us through those tricky situations?
Here, the hexagram suggests that finding a compromise, though challenging, is often the key to resolving disputes.
So instead of digging in our heels, maybe look for common ground.
Exactly.
Try to understand the other side's point of view.
Remember, Sun emphasizes achieving influence through understanding and persuasion, not through force or domination.
This all ties back so beautifully to that initial imagery of the wind.
It does.
But we haven't even touched on those individual lines within the hexagram.
Right.
You mentioned earlier that they offer even more specific insights.
You're right. Those lines are like mini lessons within the larger lesson of Sun.
Okay.
And what's fascinating is that they often echo this theme of seeking guidance from a trusted source, a great person.
Interesting.
In times of uncertainty.
Okay, I'm really curious about this. Who is this great person Sun keeps referring to?
Yeah.
Is it some kind of mystical guru figure?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
The I Ching is wonderfully open to interpretation here. It could be a mentor.
Okay.
A teacher, a wise friend, even a family member, someone who embodies those qualities of wisdom, understanding, and integrity that Sun encourages.
So it's less about a specific person.
Right.
And more about the kind of guidance we seek, the qualities we look for in those we trust to advise us.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the key message is that we don't have to figure everything out alone.
Right.
There's strength in seeking wise counsel.
Yeah.
Especially when navigating challenging waters.
That makes sense.
And that leads us back to those individual lines and their interpretation.
Okay, let's dive into those lines.
All right.
I'm eager to see how they build on this idea of gentle influence and seeking guidance.
Okay.
What are some of the key messages hidden within those lines?
The lines often depict specific scenarios and offer nuanced advice on how to navigate them.
Okay.
For instance, one line cautions against being overly assertive, reminding us that sometimes a softer approach is more effective.
Right.
Another emphasizes the importance of acting with integrity, even when it seems like no one is watching.
So it's like a collection of practical tips on how to embody the principles of Xun in different situations.
Exactly. And while the language might seem a bit cryptic at times, the underlying message is clear. Choose gentle persistence over brute force. Seek wise counsel when needed, and act with integrity, even in the face of adversity.
This is all incredibly insightful. It feels like we've uncovered a whole toolkit for navigating life's challenges with grace and wisdom.
And that's the beauty of the I Ching. It's not just a set of rules. It's a framework for understanding the world and our place within it. It encourages us to look for the deeper meaning in our experiences, to find the lessons in both the smooth sailing and the storms.
I love that.
Yeah.
So for you, the listener,
right,
what are the key takeaways from our deep dive into Xun, the gentle? What nuggets of wisdom we carry with you from this exploration? We started with this image of the gentle wind, and that's really stuck with me.
Yeah.
It's not about weakness.
Right.
It's about that subtle, persistent influence. Like it can shape mountains over time.
Over time.
And Xun encourages us to face challenges with that same spirit.
Yeah.
Adaptable, calm, and persistent, even when things get tough.
It's about choosing the long game, right? Like, sure, sometimes a hurricane blows through and makes drastic changes, but Xun is reminding us that real lasting change often comes from that steady, gentle pressure.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
We've uncovered some practical advice, too. Being sincere in our relationships.
Yes.
Paying attention to those long-term health signals. Accepting that sometimes things are truly lost.
Right.
And seeking compromise when conflicts arise.
Yeah.
It's like Xun gives us a cheat sheet for navigating life's ups and downs.
And a reminder that we don't have to go it alone.
Right.
That's what I find so compelling about this whole idea of seeking guidance from a great person.
Yeah.
It's like Xun is saying, tap into the wisdom around you.
Right. And it doesn't have to be some guru on a mountaintop.
Right.
It could be a mentor, a friend, a family member.
Exactly.
Anyone who embodies those qualities of wisdom and integrity that Xun emphasizes.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something to teach us.
Yeah.
And that seeking diverse perspectives can help us navigate our own challenges more effectively.
That really resonates with me. But here's something I'm still pondering.
Okay.
Xun suggests that gentle influence is often more effective than direct confrontation. But what about situations where we need to stand up for ourselves?
Right.
Where being gentle might feel like letting someone walk all over us?
That's a great question, and it speaks to the nuance of Xun.
Yeah.
It's not saying we should be doormats.
It's okay.
It's about discerning when to yield and when to stand firm. Remember that image of the boat leaving the sandbank?
Yeah.
Sometimes we need a surge of energy.
Right.
A decisive action to break free from what's holding us back.
So it's about finding that balance.
Yes.
Between gentle persistence and knowing when to assert ourselves.
Exactly.
So it's like sometimes we need a gust of wind and sometimes a gentle breeze is enough.
And that discernment comes with experience, with self-awareness, and yes, sometimes with seeking that wise counsel from others.
Right.
Xun is full of these subtle paradoxes.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a text you can revisit again and again, always finding new layers of meaning.
That's what makes this deep dive so rewarding.
Right.
We've uncovered practical advice,
yeah,
thought-provoking imagery, and even some philosophical questions to ponder. I feel like I have a whole new lens for looking at the challenges and opportunities in my life.
And that's the real gift of the I Ching, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about providing easy answers, but about encouraging us to engage in a lifelong conversation with ourselves and the world around us.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our exploration of Xun the Gentle, I want to leave you, the listener, with this final thought.
Okay.
The hexagram tells us to seek guidance from a great person.
Right.
Who might that be in your life? And how can their wisdom help you navigate your own path?
Good question.
What gentle winds of influence are shaping your journey, and how can you harness their power to create positive change in your life and the world around you? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep that gentle wind of wisdom blowing